All right, so I wanted to do this video because I wanted to shed some light on what it means to be a first-time mom and seriously what it means to be a first-time mom during a global pandemic. So in January of this year, I conceived my first child, and around March 11th, I told my boss that I was getting ready to file an immediate leave of absence. I didn't feel safe being in the school building with all the kids, and the cases for COVID were rising the way they were. So I'm like, nah, something gotta give, I gotta go. 2 days later, we get, I think like a newsletter or something, or a text. I don't remember at this time. She told us that we won't be returning to the building because of COVID, and we will continue schooling virtually. So by this time, I'm 3 months pregnant, and I'm like, yes, the Lord answers prayers, but still it's like, oh my gosh, you know? So we're starting off school virtually, and it's like stressful. Started going in for our regular visits to the gynecologist to check, the baby, to check to see if he was developing properly and everything like that. So I had an ultrasound, and they told me that I could have a case of placenta previa. I believe I'm saying it correctly. Placenta previa is when the placenta is covering the cervix, and it makes it hard to deliver the baby vaginally. So when I went back for a follow-up ultrasound to see if that situation was still current or if it had cleared itself up, it had cleared itself up, but the ultrasound tech said she saw something else, and she made me sit out in the waiting room for like 40 minutes. I'm just like, oh my gosh, just tell me what it is. So finally she came back out, and she was like, I think you need to go to the hospital where you're going to deliver because your what did she say? She said, your cervix has completely thinned out. So I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, well, that means that your baby's not protected. So I go to the emergency room, not the emergency room. I go to the hospital where I'm going to deliver, and they hook me up to all these wires, and they check me a bunch of times. And it's so uncomfortable when you're pregnant, when they check you vaginally. It's just so uncomfortable. So they finally told us that my cervix was completely thinned out. I had been having contractions. I didn't feel those contractions, but when it was time to deliver, I did feel those contractions. But anyway, so they gave me a shot of magnesium, and they gave me magnesium in fluids, and then they gave me 2 steroid shots to slow the contractions down so to prevent me from having a baby at 28 weeks. I did not like being hooked up to the wires.
Action.
I am.
Action.
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 Stop it. Get it out of my arm, please.
You got bakery out.
I do not want this in my hand no more. I can't feel it. I cannot feel my hand. Mommy, stop it. This is not for you to capitalize on. I can't feel my hand.
Which one?
This one. It's turning purple. It's over here. It's turning purple.
that thing. That's a purple. That's not the turn purple. That is the purple.
I did not like being in the hospital or being hospitalized for the time that we were there at 28 weeks. It was very stressful. I just kept thinking about my baby. When you become a mother or when you are expecting a child, everything is about the baby. Everything. Like, someone tells you that, I don't know, but everything was about the baby for me. First trimester of my pregnancy and a little bit of the second trimester, I was not able to eat much foods. So I got down to about 90 pounds, and eventually my doctor, he was concerned about it. So they put me like on this weight watching thing. They wanted to make sure that I was gaining enough weight, because when you're pregnant, your baby is getting nutrients from you. So you need to make sure that you have enough nutrients to give to somebody else, essentially. What I did not like about it during that time was that every time I go to the doctor, my partner couldn't be with me. So those moments where you get to hear the first heartbeat, or, or see your baby for the first time, I had to record it.
So the heartbeat is around 160, which is great.
And even then, I was told not to record certain ultrasound visits. So that was kind of heartbreaking. And in a sense, it was kind of like that moment was stolen from the both of us. I think he was only allowed to be at one visit, and that was when we found out the sex of our baby.
Oh my goodness!
Yay!
It's a boy!
There was one more time the baby tried to come early, and he ended up standing there for at least another month or so. I can't remember at this time. So even with being on bed rest, I have to get around the house. I have to do stuff. But of course, I can't go outside for real because we are on lockdown. People in Georgia weren't really on lockdown, but I wasn't taking that risk to be outside in the first place. But besides that, being on bed rest was probably the best thing for me because my baby ended up being too big for me to house in my tiny body. But I mean, I'm used to doing everything by myself. I'm used to cooking my own food. I'm used to walking around when I want to. So having that restriction was a lot on my mental. So I would cry a lot because I couldn't do anything. I literally could not do anything. So I would have like meltdowns. And so a compromise that my partner did for me sometimes was to drive me around the city. I guess the car was like my legs in a way. All right, so the day before I delivered my baby, that was a very, very stressful day for me. I remember calling my best friend Alexis, venting to her about that day. I remember taking 3 baths because my body was just, I don't know, I just couldn't take it. I was aching a lot. I was just stressed, essentially. So my partner told me, he told me after the fact that, yeah, I knew you were going to go into labor the next day. And that's what happened. At 3:20 a.m., I heard a pop. I don't know if I heard it or felt it, really. It was just like a pop. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to go to the restroom. So I went to the restroom, and I'm like, okay, my water didn't break because I'm using the bathroom. So I'm going to just put a pad on just in case. So I was like, remind me to call the hospital in the morning just to let them know, what happened. Because I don't know what happened. So I laid down probably 10 minutes. I'm like, yep, my water just broke because it was all over the bed. So he immediately jumps up and, we get ready. We head to the hospital and we have our baby. Now, because of COVID, I can only have one guest to accompany me, and it was him. I didn't mind that part. Some people wanted their families to be there, and I understand that because it's it's a celebratory moment. Of course you would want your family to be there. But for me, I was fine with just my partner being there, and we had that moment and shared that moment together.
Told Dad he's on camera crew. That's his job right now. Come on, Dad. Put a little hat on.
Oh my God.
There you are. Oh. All right. Let's make you a belly baby.
Can we delay it?
We did? We did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a thick cord we got there. Dad, you gonna cut it?
So when I get to the hospital, though, I'm like, ooh, y'all need to take me. I know my water broke. I feel like I'm gonna die. Like, it felt, I felt like I was dying. So I'm like, can y'all give me something to alleviate this pain right now? Like, come on. Yes, I want an epidural. And I was so against the epidural because I did want to have a natural birth. But I decided to have an epidural, and it's your choice. It's your body. But after having an epidural, I was like, why can I still feel the pressure of this baby? So they were like, you're going to have the baby tomorrow. So I went to sleep. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have a baby tomorrow. I was like, nah. When I finally woke up, I was like, nah, I'm gonna have this baby today. And the next time I feel like I need to push, I'm going to push. So my doctor came and she checked me and she was like, yep, set up all the stuff, we're gonna have the baby. So I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have this baby. Ah. So we had the baby at I believe at 151. I believe we had the baby at 151, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so after having the epidural made things feel less intense, but you can still feel it. At least for me, I did, because everybody's different. So I still felt what I felt. But after that, like, they was like, can you go to the bathroom? I was like, yes, I can get up, I can walk. I could actually get up and walk. Not being able to walk for 8 months was crazy, because I had my baby a month early. So that's another story in itself, okay? So Tony came out a month early, and he came out weighing 4 pounds, 8 ounces, and 17.5 inches. So he was fairly small. And with newborn babies, period, the doctors like to run all these tests to make sure that they are as healthy as can be. But with a premature baby and during COVID, they're like, okay, if mom and baby are okay, you can go home because they need the beds. But because Tony was premature, they're like, let's run all these tests over and over and over again to make sure that he doesn't need to stay in the NICU, which stressed me out. For one, having a boy, they don't have to get circumcised, but I wanted to, so he wouldn't have to, get it later down the line. So we got him circumcised. And I was like, oh, I'm just concerned. I'm just a concerned first-time mom. So anyway, they're running this test, and they kept testing him for jaundice, and it just kept on. I'm just like, are y'all gonna let us go home? It was 2 days in now. I'm just like, I really want to go home with my baby. Like, I don't want to have to come back up to the hospital while my baby's still here and I'm at home. Like, that was just gonna break my heart. So finally, we were able to go home with him being 4 pounds. I was like, ooh, our first ride home. Yay! Like, they don't give you a manual. Like, at the hospital, he was fine. He was fine. He was sleeping. He was eating all this stuff. He was fine. Whew. So we get a call, and the doctor is like, she leaves a voicemail. She's like, there was some abnormal test results. And I'm just like, abnormal test results? Nah, the way my anxiety is set up, you need to tell me what abnormal means. So it turns out it was like some VLCAD deficiency. That's what she said. The test results came back to be abnormal. So I'm like, what is that? And it's like this deficiency where the baby or the person who has it can't break down certain fats or something like that. I don't know. So we got them retested, right? They have to prick the baby once, but they have to squeeze out droplets of blood, 5 droplets of blood. So I'm just seeing how my baby's crying. I cried during that experience. I'm just like, this is very traumatizing for me, and you want us to do it again. So we did it again. And I'm like, okay, so when are we going to get the results? I get a call back 2 weeks later, because that's how long it takes to process. And they're like, well, we didn't ship it off in time. Can you take the test again? So at this point, I'm pissed, So we go back, we take the test again, and we found out that that test was negative. He does not have that. So that was one thing. All the testing is, the testing and the shots and stuff, that's very traumatizing. Because if you're anything like me and your baby has to go get those shots taken, you're going to cry. I cried. I hollered just as loud as my baby did, just to be honest. So the first week of my baby's life after bringing him home, we actually stayed in my mother's house just because she just wanted us to be there. We have a place of our own, but she wanted us to be at home with her. So we stayed there, and I'm barely sleeping. Like, I'm awake, but I don't know where this energy is coming from because I'm like really exhausted. And I just hear my baby like making like weird noises. I'm just like, what the hell is that? Like, what is that? So somehow, some way, he like rolls up from laying on his back. He rolls up, and it was just like milk coming out of his nose and mouth. And then he had tensed up, like he tensed up. And his face was like bloodshot red. And to me, it appeared like he wasn't breathing, because he did that for a minute, and then he let out a loud holler, scream, or whatever. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? You know, like, what's going on? So I'm like, oh my gosh, he having the seizures. I didn't know what it was. And everybody was downplaying it. Like, after we figured out what it was, they were like, oh, babies go through that all the time. But as a first time mom, you like, well, my baby ain't going through that all the time. And don't try to downplay what my experience is. So eventually, that same day, I called 911. I had the police, the fire department to come to the house to check on the baby. They said as long as the baby is hollering, that means that the baby is able to breathe. But still, why does after that episode, my baby seems to appear to be limp? You know, it's a 4-pound baby, 4-pound premature baby. I'm just like, is something else wrong with him? Whew. So maybe like 2 days later, it happens again. And again, I called the police, because I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with my baby? We were at our place. So I called the police again at our place. So it happened again for a third time. I'm just like, nah, we going straight to the emergency room. We went to the children's hospital, and they ran some tests, and they just said that he had acid reflux really bad. But for me, like, I'm crying, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm scared, really. And everybody I was talking to was like, oh, it happens all the time. And I'm like, stop telling me that. Like, stop telling me that. I don't care if it happens all the time. I don't want it to happen to him, you know? All right, so all of the experiences that I've had thus far was either during pregnancy or during my maternity leave. So now I'm going to talk about returning back to work, and that was October 26th. I returned back to work, and yes, we are still virtual, which I'm so thankful for, because I'm still with my baby. Like, it's still COVID, you know. Where is he going? I'm not sending my baby to childcare, you know. Like, I am his childcare. I'm his mom. So I'm breastfeeding. What they don't tell you is when you have a baby, right? And you're contracting. Everybody contracts. That's how you know you're getting ready to have a baby. You had a baby and you decide to breastfeed. As a first-time mom, if you've never felt that experience before, it hurts. It hurts. You think it's going to be so natural, but it's not. Like, it's natural, but that feeling, you've never felt that feeling before. Like, the first week, you still feel like you having that baby, because that once the baby latches on, him or her latching on, your uterus is contracting to shrink back to normal. That shit hurts, you know? So every day I'm like, I'm gonna quit. Like, because it hurts so bad. And I'm just like, how do I know if my baby's eating enough? I go to the hospital and they're like, he's not gaining weight. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to supplement. So I'm like, oh, once he supplement, that's when he has those episodes that I was speaking to y'all about. So I'm just like, no, I don't want to supplement. I just want my baby to strictly breastfeed. Y'all, I took myself to the ER because I couldn't raise my arm, nor could I turn my neck, because my breast had gotten so engorged, like backed up. That's what that means, backed up. And I'm not sure if this is the case for all women, but I have an extra breast tissue up under my arm that, you know, if I'm breastfeeding, it's milk up there too. So I'm like, damn, I can't lift my arm. Like, this is what I gotta go through. Like, my breasts look like torpedo breasts. Like, I never had that much breast in my life. So anyway, I go to the emergency room and I'm like, can you cut the extra breast tissue out from up under my arm? Because I want to be able to move my arm, you know? And eventually I get my baby to latch on, because at the hospital he was latching on. It was hurting so bad. But when he got home, he wasn't latching on. So I got these things called nipple shields. And it's like this silicone plastic covering that the baby will latch onto. So he was doing that for a while. I'm just like, no, because I keep losing these clear, you know, pieces of whatever material. I don't want to keep buying this. I want my baby to latch on naturally. So I kept trying, and finally he's been able to latch on, right? But I'm just like, I want to pump. Now I want to pump. Because sometimes, what if we go back to school? What if we go back to work? I want to be able to pump so my child will have some nutrients while he's away from me if he has to go, wherever, even though I don't want him to go somewhere. So I'm trying to pump, and my mother-in-law comes to visit, and she's like, you're not pumping enough. It's not enough in the bottle. So I'm just like, ugh. If I'm not pumping enough, does that mean that my baby's not eating? If I'm not pumping enough, like, what's going on? Like, how do I know my baby's getting what he needs? So I'm like, no, I'm finna quit. Like, if I don't start pumping 10 ounces, cause it's discouraging when you see like the and when you see the Instagram post of like the over pumpers, the moms who have like these storages full of milk. So I thought that was gonna be me. Like, I thought that was normal. But your body actually produces enough for the baby, because your baby tells your body how much it needs, and it makes enough for your body. If you pump and you don't have enough within the bottle, that's okay, because what the doctor explained to me, and this is probably the best piece of knowledge that she gave me, your baby is able to express the milk the best. After your baby, it is your hands. The next best thing from your hands is the actual pump. So I'm just not, I can't really pump that well. But another thing that I discovered is I was using the wrong flange. I think that's how you say it. It's the actual cup that you attach to your boob and that drains the milk out. So once I changed the size of that, I was able to actually see the milk that I needed for my child. Another note that I need to make is that at different times of day, your body produces milk differently. So that's another thing to be aware of as well. Another thing that I wanted to add regarding breastfeeding. So breastfeeding, once you get over the first week or so, it doesn't hurt as bad. Now, that for me, it didn't hurt as bad. And through breastfeeding, the woman is able to lose weight in the process. I haven't been to any gym. I haven't been to anybody's gym. I haven't worked out, not one time at all. But I have lost all of my weight because of breastfeeding. And I just feel like it's genetics. I also feel like it's a big thing for women to snap back, and that's not the case for everybody. That may not be their genetic makeup. It may take time, but I just feel like we should love our bodies and embrace our bodies with the changes that have occurred during pregnancy. It's a beautiful process. It's challenging as hell at first, but it does get better. Like I said, I'm still in the process right now. I'm 3 months in, and yeah. Another thing that I wanted to share was trying to find a balance is very hard, especially during this time, like with COVID and everything that's going on. Of course, we would like to see our family members, and they would like to help us with the baby and stuff like that. But none of us really want to take that risk. So with that being said, I personally feel like that is why my baby doesn't really take well to people. And that could not be the reason, but that is the reason that I'm going with now. He doesn't like anybody but mommy. And so that means, what is personal space? It's no such thing. He thinks that we're supposed to sleep nose to nose, feet to feet, stomach to stomach. He thinks that we're one person still when we're actually two. Going to the restroom without him is hard sometimes because he just wants to be with me all the time. Yeah. So the last thing that I want to talk about, because, I'm still fairly new as a mother. I am only 3 months in. So the next thing that I want to talk about for this video is the postpartum hair shedding. All right, guys. So when you're pregnant, you may either have hair loss then, it may seem to be thinned out, or you may have like, you know, nice flowy locks. For me, I had nice flowy locks. Right now, this is what I have. Now, to some, they might be like, girl, you look all right. But to me, I'm getting clumps and clumps of hair coming out. And I'm just like, I'm going bald. So, that's something that I am battling right now is postpartum shedding. And, yeah, I might cut my hair if it doesn't get any better. Now, I will say it has gotten better, but I haven't fully figured it out yet. So once I do, I will update you on that. But postpartum hair shedding is real, okay? It is real. And at this time, that is all for this video. Like, comment, and subscribe for updates.